So welcome this evening. I'm Dr. Stefana Pescher, the Country Doc, here in North Stonington, and we have the honor of welcoming a very special guest, three-time author, spiritual leader, and meditation master, Leslie Karen Hammond, is known as the Empowering Story Whisperer. For over 18 years, she's created environments for women to feel safe, fulfilled, and empowered. Her unique approaches to helping women overcome unworthiness and incompleteness have been referred to as all-encompassing, clearing the way for intent to be set and lived, extremely innovative, clear, powerful, solid methods to get the work done. Leslie facilitates women's circles, programs for cutting unhealthy energetic ties, an apprenticeship program in advanced energy medicine, and does customized meditations for personalized transformation. She has mastered turning adversity into a mission focused on nurturing the spirits of women globally. She has empowered thousands across the USA and abroad to transform the pain of their past into a teaching tool rather than a means for disempowerment. Please join me in welcoming Leslie Karen Hammond.
So this would be the formal welcome. How are we on sound? Good? Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for all coming out tonight. I am grateful. An opportunity to plant a seed and to invite you to think about or to process or to be more aware of something in a slightly different manner, I consider an enormous gift. Because so many people are like waking up a little bit at a time, some faster than others. And for those that are waking up and the ones closest to them are kind of slow to catch up, it can be a little frustrating. So hopefully tonight we'll shed some light on some things that you can do as you come to not only embrace, your past as a tool, but also you can see other people's past in a different way. And perhaps in that process, it might make you a more compassionate, or at least invite you to be a more compassionate person. No one can make you do anything. So consider it an invitation. And I also invite you to use that as a code word, invitation. So every time you're compelled to say struggle, or every time you're compelled to say challenge, what would happen if that was in fact really an invitation? Picture the guy with the little bow tie and the silver plate handing you an engraved invitation, if that helps. But every time that something goes completely unexpected, or anytime that you get triggered, that's an invitation. So welcome. Okay, you already know that part. Although Stefana's introduction was wonderful, I have to say that one of the things I am most proud of is this woman. Talk about such an enormous transformation by coming to terms with her story and being able to, first of all, articulate it, because knowing that you have a powerful story, or even the hint of it, sensing it, that's one thing. But then when your fingers go to hit the keyboard, or when your pen goes to hit the paper, that's a completely different thing. Then all of a sudden the inner critic comes in, and the little voice that tells you, oh, who are you? What do you know? You have no business sharing that. What makes you so great or important? What makes you think that you can make a difference in anyone's life? And this is a woman who put her heart and her soul into her story. She recovered from lupus and rheumatoid arthritis through food. She's incredible. She's a yogi and just an amazing woman. And to get someone to see the things that I see in them is an incredible privilege. It's a term that, has anybody ever heard the term holding space? So it's something, okay. Thank you, we had one. Well, holding space is, you can consider that creating an environment where someone can feel comfortable, or when someone can feel safe, where someone can be who they want to be, Or it can be like saying a prayer or putting a thought out into the universe. Like, I'm going to hold space that, this person is going to have safe travels. I'm going to hold space that when, this person goes and has an event that everything's going to go okay and people will show up. Or and here's a really good one, I'm going to hold space for this person to honor their own healing process. And it's like turning it over to the divine, because that can be one of the toughest things you'll ever do, is giving someone the time and the space to honor their own process. How do I know that? Because I failed miserably at it before. I think everybody has. That's how we come to know all the things that we know. So the things that I'm most proud of are the clients who have trusted me and who have transformed in some of the most beautiful ways and brought their work into the world. Because the world was waiting for them, and they chose to take the invitation and to show up. So can you imagine, all right, put your 12-year-old or your 6-year-old imagination hats on. And although in the introduction it said about working primarily with women, there are heart-centered men who come and sit in the ceremonies that I facilitate also and have extraordinary experiences. And some of them feel very much at home because there aren't a lot of spaces where men can go and do that and be in that way. So can you imagine feeling like this about all those dark parts of your story right now that make you cringe? I mean, can you imagine? The pieces that you wouldn't normally share with someone out of shame, because you would never want to admit that this window of time, this chunk, was something that you allowed to have happen in your life. Can you imagine if the perspective on that could be shifted just enough so that it no longer brought this wave of unworthiness or this wave of shame, but instead you were able to stand up with your shoulders back a little more and say, okay, we're on public television, I'm not going to swear. But you can say, you know what? I did that. I lived through that. I survived that. I came out the other side, and there is no reason that I should be ashamed for this part of the story. Can you imagine? How would that change the way you show up? The way you interact with everyone in your life, especially the people, the ones that, the really close ones that have a way of getting under your skin and they've mastered which buttons to push at which time. It's like, how do they know? When did they get so intuitive? Our kids, they're the best at that. Just saying. Mine's 29, but they get good at that. They get really good at that. So if you could imagine having a shift like that, and how enormously influential that would be in your life. So it's essentially, this is a train wreck, just in case that wasn't clear. So this is being able to take a train wreck and make something good out of it. The only reason these 3 books happened is because of my train wrecks. That's the only reason. And getting to the point where, and I'm sure this will all happen for you at some point, when you come out the other side of something and then you realize, you know what, I have the potential to help someone else, through something like this, and I can no longer sit by and watch. That you've been given a gift, and that suddenly it becomes a disservice to your creator, to God, Spirit, Buddha, Jesus, by whatever name you refer to your higher power. But then suddenly it becomes a disservice to not start helping people in the way you know you can. All of you have the potential for that. Even if you're thinking, oh, who, me? I'm just, whatever. That's nonsense. Every single one of you, it doesn't matter how old you are, you have the capacity to feel empathy, to be there for someone, to help someone see a different perspective when they get so lost on their own they can't see one. That's a gift. And the more that people wake up, the more other people need that. They need to know that they're not crazy, that it's okay to be human, that It's all right to go through the ups and downs and to come out the other side. Hey there, welcome. My mission has been about creating environments for people to feel that kind of shift. Whether it happens in the heart, in the body, in the mind. So one thing that I've become acutely aware of lately is every time that you hear a reference to the whole encompassing elements of a person, they always start with mind. They call it mind, body, spirit. And the word mindfulness, how many of you are familiar with that? I mean, you like hear it thrown out all over the place. Well, I invite you to ditch the word mindfulness from your vocabulary altogether. Forget you ever learned that word. And instead, replace it with awareness. Because if your mind is full, your thoughts will be racing. You will not be present. You'll be all over the place. Mind full. I mean, it's like pretty cut and dry. So if you have the ability to become aware, then you can be present. I mean, like just for example, really quick example of mindfulness. So just see, look at that. It's a practice of awareness. So I'm taking a little nap. I got my legs up about a half hour before I got in the car to come here. And of course, my mind could be racing with all the things that I was worried about forgetting, or all of the things that, could go wrong. Anybody ever go there? Like, uh-oh, what could go wrong? And instead, I thought, you know what? Let me open the window. Let me practice being aware of the soft bed that's underneath me, of the wind that's blowing through the trees, of that gentle breeze that I feel coming in the room. It got to the point where I couldn't remember which leg was crossed over which leg. It was so present in the moment that I felt incredibly rested in a period of 15 minutes. That's what awareness can do for you. Even if you only have like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, you're all pretty busy. So even if you have to take like an extra 30 seconds or a minute in the bathroom, who's going to know? I mean, you can just practice being present and being aware. So it's all about creating spaces for people to transform, wherever that is. So you're in the right place if living a happier, fuller, richer life is important to you, because you want to kind of put to the back burner, put to the side all of those stressors that you allow to easily come up. How many people feel stress on a regular basis? Yeah. How many try not to feel stress on a regular basis and it comes in anyway? Yeah. Well, see, the problem is we're so good at it. We're stress masters. It's almost become a default. Like, we can't help it. We're so good at it, our body goes into that place without even trying. It's like effortless. But there is a way that can be changed. You can most definitely change that. And a little bit earlier we talked about, if you know that your experience, if what you have learned, no matter what age you are, if you sense that your experience can help another person, and it doesn't have to help them with a monumental, life-changing experience. It can help them wake up with just something small. Because something that might be small and insignificant to you could be the world to someone else. You just never know. Who are you to make that judgment call? And if you want to be more authentic, who wants to be more authentic? Okay, let's rephrase that question. Who is incredibly authentic all the time? Who's not shy about being who they are? Okay, a few of you. That's awesome. Well, well, congratulations to those of you who feel good about that. That means that you're well supported. That means that you have a community that appreciates who you are when you are authentic, regardless of what that means. Because not everybody feels that way. A lot of people feel like, oh, if people know who I really am, they'll judge me. They won't like me. You know, they say the definition of a friend is someone who can see right through you and still enjoy the view. So being authentic. And being on the cusp. Who always feels like they're on the cusp of something like really awesome? Well, I'll share with you. I know now that when I am like scared to death about doing something, that's when I know I have to do it. And okay, I'm trying to be mindful of time here because I could tell you stories for 3 days, probably longer. So I'll share a little bit about like really being afraid to do something. So last year I had an opportunity to get in the car and take my show on the road. 6 weeks, 6,000 miles, audiences that I had never sat with before, hoping that venues would show up. I was terrified, more terrified than divorce, more terrified than the birth of my child, more terrified than buying a house. I mean, it was like nuts. And then I knew at that moment I had to do it. That was last year. And this year the stakes got upped a little bit because next week I'm going to China for 5 weeks. Again, scared the living bejesus out of me because I'm still not completely ready to go. But it's an invitation, like we were talking about before, the invitation on the silver platter with the guy in the bow tie. It's an invitation to stretch. And because I was so scared, I knew I needed to do it. So as we move through these, the subject matter, consider like what triggers you, like what all of a sudden makes you go, oh no, not going there. Well, you know what? That's the invitation for you to take a look at precisely that thing that's getting under your skin. Because on the other side of that is just amazingness and wonderful things. And if you want to leave a legacy. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. What you need to know about loving your past. The danger of just letting go. How many of you hear that term? Oh, just let it go. Just let it go. Like, what do you mean you can't just let it go? I mean, everybody says it, especially when they don't want to deal with you processing your emotions and what's going on. They look at you and they're like, just let it go and move on already. So we're going to talk a little bit about the danger of just letting go. The secret to living a balanced life. Who wants to live a more balanced life? It's almost like that word mindfulness. You get so tired of hearing it. It's like if one more person tells me to live a balanced life, I'm going to clock them one. You just get tired of hearing it. How to unlock that authentic piece of you and start sharing it and be proud of it. And reclamation. What is that? And why should you care? So why am I compelled to go and to give talks to people, to plant seeds, to share stories, to inspire? Because I forgot what it was like to be connected to this divine part of myself. I was a fiercely independent young woman, got into a marriage, 18 years, to an alcoholic, and lost myself. And for the younger folks in the room, when you fall in love the first time, it's like all encompassing. It swallows you whole. Nothing else exists. It's the most fabulous thing. It's like chocolate squared, if chocolate's your thing. And you will believe that no one will understand. No one. And it helps you feel this aliveness. It's like the best drug out there. Better than anything else. And there's a risk of losing yourself. And I lost that part of myself. And it was one heck of a journey coming back. That's my why. It's because of all those things I learned in that process. And the shame that was around the story of that loss. And then the finding again. Oh, I love it when that happens. Close your eyes. Don't look. Don't look. Okay. You can look now. Okay. Is that right? Okay, what you need to know about loving your past. So a lot of times people think they can just forget about stuff. You know what? That person's out of my life, or I don't see them on a regular basis, or I've got way too much stuff on my to-do list here. I don't have time for this. Maybe if I just forget about it, it'll go away. Maybe if I just pretend, kind of like in one ear and out the other, it'll go away. And then you won't have to deal with it anymore. Well, that turns into like a speed bump in the rug. And then at the most inopportune moment, so imagine like you have to get up in the middle of the night and go use the bathroom, and then all of a sudden, you trip on the rug. You stub your toe. You smack your knee on the table. Whatever your scenario is, it will come back. Just forgetting isn't enough. It's not enough. It's easy to believe that you forget, but everything that happens to you, every experience leaves a resonance in the body. It leaves a trail in your energy field. And that does not go away unless you get help. There's times when I've needed stuff done, and I'm getting much better at asking for help, but you'll need to ask for help to work with some of those things. They don't just automatically disappear. And just by, the kind of letting go piece and saying, okay, well, I release you. Well, there's a whole nother thing we could talk about is the word release. When you lease a car and then the lease runs out, what do? A lot of times you release it. So instead of release being a letting go, a release could also be obtaining again. So just food for thought. But the letting go piece and the forgetting piece is not effective. It will come back, and it will keep coming back. I mean, how many of you have thought you let something go, and then 6 months, 6 years, whatever, later it comes back again, comes to bite you in the backside, and it's like, oh crap, I thought I'd gotten rid of that. One of the trainings that I've studied with shamans in Peru and also in the States, and one of the trainings, the things we did in training was we did something called a death arrow. So we would take a stick and we would blow a prayer of something that we wanted to let go of, and then we would throw it in the fire. And I found that I was bringing the same thing to the fire, like 6 or 7 times over. And I'm ready to just scream. I couldn't understand what was going on. Why did this other piece not go? I'm letting it go. I'm doing the work. What's the deal here? Well, there was still a connection. I hadn't truly gotten through it yet. So this is what happens, usually one of these two scenarios, when this invitation to examine something comes up. Either you're going to go off the handle or you're going to retreat. One of the two. Everybody's different. Doesn't matter if you're an introvert or if you're an extrovert, but one of those two is probably your norm. So the trigger happens, and then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, either it's a lash out because it hurt, or it could be, oh, I can't believe that happened again. I feel ashamed that this happened. Off I go into the corner, behind closed doors. I've not talked to people for weeks because of that. It's an invitation. And whichever one happens to be your norm, neither one of them is healthy. Because the body never lies. Things always have a way of showing up in the body. Emotional stuff will take its toll. Could be plumbing stuff, could be arthritis, could be digestive, all kinds of things. I've known women with incredible heartache in their lives that have had breast cancer. I mean, there's no coincidence when things happen. The body never lies. One thing that also comes from the process of coming to terms and diving into your story is that who knows, you may find out why you're actually here. And it doesn't mean that your story needs to get published in a book. Sometimes just that process in and of itself, that exploration, can open tremendous doors. I mean, this lady, Amy, she had already been running her business for quite some time. And then suddenly, diving into the story deeper, she had realized on a much more intense, intimate level why her health journey led her to where she is and who she's meant to serve. It will open your eyes to things that you never anticipated. It is a process. And generally, it's best done with someone who will hold you accountable, because it's so easy to quit when you just do it yourself. It's like, oh, nobody's going to know. Okay, I'm done. You know, nobody will ever know. They ask me, I can say, oh yeah, that was good. But it can change things immensely. So the danger of just letting go. I heard some chuckling, a little bit of laughter before about, oh, just let it go, move on. Well, there's a really strong component that's missing with the just letting go. So how many people let go of things on a regular basis, or believe that you do? Wow, intense crowd. Only 2 hands went up. Well, congratulations for those of you that do. But here's the thing. If you just let go and you don't forgive, this is what happens. This enormous crevice is created between the heart and between the spirit. If you don't forgive, that anger, that frustration, perhaps resentment, not that I would know anything about any of those things, but that will find a way to stay in the body and to create this divide. Because here you might love someone, and then at the same time, I'm not going to use the word hate, but at the same time you resent them. At the same time you get so angry you can't even be around them. You just want to disown them. You want to shake them. Maybe you want to do some other things to them. Who's to say? But you have a hard time accepting. And then the guilt comes in. Because you feel bad that you feel this way. I should love this person unconditionally. I should accept them for who they are. But damn it, they pissed me off. They hurt me. I don't like what they did. Well, forgiveness is not the same as condoning. Completely different. Just because you forgive someone, you're not condoning their behavior. People who are in jail for murder, the people the mothers of the children that were the victims of these god-awful crimes, they found a way to forgive. And it wasn't about the person that committed the crime. It was about their own peace of mind. It was about them being able to move on. Because if you don't forgive, if you just let go, then that's going to keep eating at you. And it's going to show up somewhere. Whether it shows up with digestive issues, or it shows up as urinary tract infections, or it shows up as a heart attack, or one of my all-time favorites, a lot of throat problems, or you lose your voice. All kinds of ways. Body doesn't lie. So just to let go and leave out the forgiveness part, it will leave you in a very unsettled state over time. And when you consider how many different times you've let something go and that you haven't forgiven, that could be a lot of times. That could be a lot of stuff that you're carrying. That could be why older people shrink. When you think about it, all that extra, that burden, the energetic burden, the weight of the guilt, the shame, the regret. It's a lot to carry. Everybody deserves to be loved. And even when you think you've done something that's horrendous, that's horrific, that's unworthy of love, well, you still deserve love as well. So one of the places, if forgiveness is not quite your thing yet, then start by forgiving yourself for something. How many people are really easy on themselves and you let yourselves off the hook? Piece of cake. Yeah, I thought so. That's one of the hardest things to do, is to cut yourself a break. And to realize, you know what? I did the best that I could at that moment. And I'm going to be okay with that. That's going to be good enough. Well, if you haven't gotten to that point yet, then practice forgiving yourself first, because that's where it starts. And I mean, that's like a whole nother talk when it comes to the self, but yeah, forgive yourself first. Because you can feel like this. This is a two-way street here, so it may look like both of them are opening up, but one of them, imagine one letting go and one receiving. If you forgive, truly forgive, there's a lot more that you can let go of. But now here's the thing. If the trigger comes up again and you think, I forgave this person, what's up with this? Like the death arrow, you know, when I kept taking that thing to the fire. Well, here's the caveat. As you age, whether it's a day, a week, a year, a decade, you are a different person. Every day you're a different person. So if something comes up again, then it's an invitation for you to look at it and to forgive from a different place, from a new depth, from a deeper understanding of who you are, of who they are. So you may find you have to forgive someone for something multiple times over. And it's a growing process for you as well. It's really a gift. I mean, I'm sure you'd much rather run the other direction, but it's a gift. And when you're able to really forgive and really let go, then you'll be able to trust your judgment a little bit better. How many ever second guess things? Once in a while, maybe. Yeah. And then what happens when you second guess? Like, oh, tossing and turning at night. Oh, I can't sleep. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done that. It's like, stop shooting on yourself. You know, you ever heard that phrase? So you can get to a point where you can process things so much more fluidly. Make it easier. Okay, who wants to know about the secret of living a balanced life? I mean, who wants more balance, you know? And it's not about yoga. Although I enjoy yoga very much and I have a lot of respect for yogis. But so one thing I'll say about that in terms of balance is if any of you have ever done yoga and you're on your mat and there's somebody really that's right next to you that is so much more advanced than you are, and then you like sneak a peek, and then what happens? You fall out of your pose. You're like, oh, darn it, I fell for that again. Why did I do that? Why didn't I learn? Well, leading a balanced life is really about connection. It's about connection and it's about trusting. You will never be in balance if you don't remember the connection between you and what's important. It starts with the connection, because if you don't routinely maintain that connection, if you don't feel it on some kind of a regular basis, then it's so easy to become disconnected from it. Your mission, your passion, your purpose. As soon as you get disconnected from that, then, you know, like everything can start to break loose and things fall. They fall off to the wayside. They start to fall apart. They start to break. So important to maintain that connection and to trust. To trust that when you want to go like this, when you want to run in the other direction, when you don't want to face that thing that got under your skin, to trust that that's a gift. It's a gift to help you process. It's a gift to help you move on. The only reason that I can stand up here and I can speak about this with such conviction and such passion is because I've run the other way. I ran the other way for 18 years. Longer even. Oh, there's so many stories I could tell you about running the other way. About avoidance, about feeling unworthy, about being ashamed of the story and not seeing the gift in it. Like borderline going into victim mode and staying there. Very unhealthy. Very unhealthy. Being able to see every experience as a gift will serve you well, serve you a lifetime. And to understand that the way you show up and the reason that you feel the things you do is because those roots run deep. They run very deep. For you to become more aware, to deliberately shift the way that you think, the way that you behave, it takes a concerted effort. The ego is really good at getting in the way when you want to make those kinds of shifts. Because the ego will say, yeah, well, we've never done it that way before. You don't know how to do it that way. You can't do it that way. Who do you think you are? You better than everybody else? You got no business being that way. I mean, the ego is like a bear, the inner critic. It's horrendous. But if you trust that you have the capacity to do that, you can do it. It's a practice. Notice how they don't call it a perfect. They call it a practice. You take a step forward, it's like a toddler starting to walk. Take a step forward, you fall down, you get up. Take another 2 steps, you fall down, you get up. Nobody's counting. Okay, maybe you are. Maybe the inner critic is counting, but no one else is. If they are, well, then that's just too bad. And maybe they've got some work of their own to do, and they'd rather be counting your business than counting their own. Just saying. And then, well, the last thing I'll say about the deep roots and the deliberateness is to cut yourself a break, and then also know that when all this business is going on inside you, when someone else gets volatile, gets reactive, blows up, that's their deep roots. They're going with, and maybe that kind of reaction, maybe that's all they know. That's their default mechanism. They may go into that behavior without even knowing it. It's unconscious. It's like this defense mechanism kicks in all of a sudden. And like even in the case of alcoholism, sometimes people just don't remember after the fact. And it could be that people are so engulfed in that pain, and after they react, they might even black out. Not under the influence of anything, but they may just be in such a fog of pain and misery that they don't even remember what happened to some degree. That is possible. But here's the thing. We're all connected. Have you ever watched a movie and started to cry, and then all of a sudden you were like crying for everyone on the planet? All of a sudden, like these tears come out and you don't know where they're all coming from. It's like, holy crow, that was just a little kitten that rolled on its belly and like wiggled its tail, and here I'm like bawling my eyes out. Well, we're all connected. I do it too. We're all connected. And here's the thing. So when that happens and that like wave of emotion comes over you, consider it a gift. Consider yourself empathic and intuitive and having an ability to connect into the collective consciousness of humanity and everyone who's ever felt that same emotion. It's possible. When I first started with the energy work, and I would feel things to such a degree that I didn't believe anybody would understand. They would think I'm nuts. It's like, how could you just see this and then go into this state? And it was like I felt everything so intensely. It got uncomfortable at first because I didn't know what to make of it. But it's that connection. Everybody's all connected. Everything is connected. If you try and tell yourself otherwise, you're fibbing. It's all connected. Okay, unlocking the authentic you that everybody wants to see more of. Right? It's like pulling back the curtain. The process of being more authentic, not only are you pulling back the curtain for others to experience you, but you're going to be pulling back the curtain on what you feel and how you interact in the world. Because if you're used to like kind of being shrouded and not sharing with people, you may not be opening up and may not be more authentic because you don't know how to behave in those realms. You don't know what that looks like. You don't know what that feels like. It's so foreign. It's uncharted territory. There's no map. There's no compass. There's no book. I mean, there's a lot of books, but there's not a book about you doing it. So somebody else's story doesn't matter because this is you. You don't know. It's like one of those holy crap moments. I'm not going there. No, thank you. I'll just stay like this. I'll stay in my own little world. I'm happy. Well, here's the thing. There is a piece of you that is just dying to get out there. There is a piece of you that doesn't feel whole because you're not being authentic. I love April Fools. I'm like really an imp inside. I think like a 6 or a 7-year-old imp. Ask my husband, he'll tell you. I stand around corners sometimes and jump out and scare him. And he's 71. He'll like grab his chest and say, will you please not do that? But there's I love doing stuff like that. It's fun. It helps maintain the child inside of me. And so I'm sure there's pieces of you. Oh, there's a whole bunch of other things I've done on April Fool's Day too. There's the cat food and the tuna fish that I gave my younger brother once. Oh, did I get in trouble for that? Kids don't do that. But there's a piece of you that needs to come out. A piece of you, did I hear an uh-oh out there? There's a piece of you that once it is set free, okay, this is the little footnote here. Yes, it will take a little getting used to. The people around you might be, oh, can you put that back in the box, please? I'm not ready for that. But you know what? Your spirit will feel so much lighter. You will feel so much better. You will feel liberated. You will feel free. And then you'll be able to take a look back at that person you were before the box got opened and say, wow, how did I get through my days like that? How can I live like that person before? Because, man, this is rocking. I'm liking this new me. And if other people don't like it, well, you know what? They can go pound sand because I really don't care. This is me. I'm living for me. And you'll get to that point and you'll feel really good about it. And you'll also be able to tap into this part of you that is directly connected to Source. This part of you that's intuitive. Now, don't go getting all like, uh-oh, she's getting a little woo-hoo on me. Intuition, it's something everyone has. When you feel a knot in your gut, that's probably the place most people can comprehend the concept of intuition. When you just get a feeling about something. Hunch, call it a hunch. Who gets hunches on a regular basis? So call it a hunch. Just imagine being able to follow that the first time, because have you ever ignored the hunch? Have you ever gotten yourself in trouble because you ignored the hunch? Yeah. So just imagine being able to recognize the hunch and trust it and follow it. Think of how much time that could save you, or how much money that could save you, or how much heartache ultimately that could save you. And this is a true story I'm about to tell you. In the Southwest, or any of the Plains country, the bison and the cattle have a very, very different approach when a storm is coming. When the cattle suspect a storm, or they feel it, because animals can detect that, the cattle run in the other direction. They try to outrun the storm. In the process, they exhaust themselves, and they get wet anyway. But now they're wet and exhausted. Well, the bison, they run into the storm. Run through the storm to get out the other side faster. Maybe they're tired, maybe they're wet, but you know what? They got to the other side a lot quicker. So what would happen if every time you had one of those invitations that you took it and you ran with it, and instead of running away from it, you ran into it? You took it head on and said, all right, I get it now. I hear you. Can you imagine? tapping into your story and tapping into your truth is going to scare you. You're not going to want to do it. Between your heart aching, between your inner critic telling you that you got no business doing that, to the reaction that you're worried about from other people. Because part of your pain involves other people. Always happens that way. But there's a way that the story can be told. And it's about you. It's about getting you to that next place. It's about helping you evolve. You are not responsible for helping other people evolve. Okay, maybe when you have children and they're young and you're raising them, but it gets to a certain point when you've done all you can. And the most integral, organic, foundational pieces of that child have already been solidified. And the rest is like icing on the cake. There couldn't be a stronger invitation for you to consider taking a look at what's under the hood, so to speak. You know, from an emotional perspective, from a physical perspective, from a spiritual perspective, to become more aware. It's all about awareness and about what you let have a control over you. Everybody likes to be in control. None of us are in control. It's really all theirs. But when you can find a way to maneuver and to like ride those waves when they come, changes everything. Absolutely everything. And when you can move through those processes, well, son of a gun, wouldn't you know it, you might just love your past. You might just look at everything that's happened before you as a gift. You might come to terms with some things you never imagined you could. You might forgive some people. You might learn to love again if your heart's been broken. Not that I'd know anything about that. You might learn that the person on the middle school playground that bullied you for being yourself doesn't matter. Because a lot of times the things that, those seeds that get planted that tell us what we can and can't do, that happens at a really young age. It could be something that just really stuck and nobody wanted to let us process at the time. They told us to let it go and get over it. And we thought we did. But guess what? We didn't. We didn't. Okay, reclamation. Reclamation is taking a stand for what you've lost along the way and saying, you know what, enough is enough, I'm taking it back. Nobody has got that kind of power over me to take this from me. Maybe I let them have it before, but you know what, I'm going to get it back now. It's mine. I'm not giving it to them again. I refuse. Maybe I was a little less confident back then. So what? You've changed. You change every day. Reclaiming all of those pieces is what makes a person whole. It's not falling in love. It's not, it's not someone to come fill the void. It's you that fills the void. It's you that takes back all those little pieces that have scattered who knows where, from different relationships, from different confrontations. Every time that you bowed down instead of taking a stand and standing for what you believed. Every time that you didn't have the courage. It's time to take that back. I don't care who you are. There's a lot of work in the world that you have to do, and you need courage to do it. You need to find that fire that's burning in your belly. You need to find that reason that it's time to reclaim. Because once you do, it feels good. So whatever your equivalent of feel good is, a hot stone massage, a sauna, a hot tub, a hot fudge sundae, a cold beer. No, I shouldn't relate that to alcohol. But, like whatever your thing is, whatever it is. Vegetables out of the garden. Laying on the floor, rolling around with a dog or a cat. But those are the parts of you that are so important to take back. Because every single one of you has a depth and a mystery to you that does not need to be explained. It does not need to be defended to anyone. You are who you are for a very specific reason. And the sooner that you reclaim all those little pieces that you've let go, then the sooner you're going to feel whole again. The sooner that you'll be able to celebrate your successes. Who's ever gotten frustrated because someone didn't celebrate something? Like you accomplished something and you were feeling really good and you thought, well, I should be acknowledged and celebrated for it, and people didn't. Has that ever happened to anyone? Well, here's the thing. If you don't make time to acknowledge your own progress and celebrate yourself, if it doesn't start here, then how can you possibly expect anyone else to celebrate you? I'm just saying. Absolutely. So sometimes it's painful to dive into the pieces of your story that are necessary for you to heal. But I promise you with every ounce of my being that on the other side of that lies this profound freedom you could never imagine. Profound. It's like a weight has been taken off your shoulders, or you just took off a 40-pound vest. Like, oh, I can breathe again. It's extraordinary. It's beautiful. It's connectedness. It's wholeness. It's completeness. It's divine. Coming back into wholeness is all those things and more. And it's a story. It's your history. Can you imagine a grandchild, a great-grandchild, 50 years from now, reading your story? How many of you have ever lost a loved one and then later thought, I wish I knew them better. I wish I asked them this. I wish I would have, the list goes on. Your story can serve a whole lot of purposes. Yes, it can be about healing, but it can also be about leaving a legacy. So here's what we've covered. The importance of loving your past. How many feel like maybe you can do that a little bit more now? Maybe? All right, I'll count the raised eyebrows since nobody raised hands. If I saw an eyebrow, that counts. And how about letting go? How many people look at letting go now a little bit differently? And what are you going to do instead of letting go? I'll give you a hint. It begins with an F. Excellent. Yes, you're going to forgive. And balance? What's the secret to living a balanced life? It's connection. Remembering the connection. And unlocking that authentic you, let it rip. I'm going to be reaching out to the two of you because you keep laughing, so I want to know the story back there. It's going to be good, I can tell. And then reclaiming. Taking back what's yours. Taking it back, calling it in. So if you want to stay in touch, I have a couple things here that I can offer that you can do so that we can stay in touch. And I want to say thank you. You've been great. The feedback's been wonderful. The energy's been fantastic. I hope you learned something and that you take it with you. Thank you.